Hey guys, welcome to This Is My Testimony podcast, episode 3. I am here with Tonia, my very special friend that you guys heard on the first episode. We talk about my dream and her being in it, and she was the one that I approached and was like, you're going to think I'm absolutely crazy. Like, let me tell you about this dream I had. And here we are. It's probably been 3 years since we've had that conversation. So I am so honored that you are here today. We have prayed. We are ready to go. She's going to just dive right in and share a little bit about her and then really get into her story and her journey. So, welcome. I'm so glad that you were here.
I am so honored that I get to be the very first guest. I'm so honored. This is a dream and it's amazing.
Oh, so. Totally a God thing. It's the whole thing, the way it worked out. Yes.
Which God is always, his timing is perfect.
Always perfect.
Always perfect. Yeah. So a little bit about me. I grew up in a small town, kind of like not Carroll, but way farther south, and ended up here almost 33 years ago now. So Morrison is home. It's home to my 3 boys, and so it's.
Are they all still around here?
2 of them are.
Okay.
So Alex, our oldest, he is working and living back close to our hometown, which is nice because my parents are there. But he is a case manager for foster kids.
Aww,
which is
probably very hard.
Amazing. Yes, he has done amazing things. I'm so proud of him because I could not do that. No way. But and then my middle son, he is married and they live in Morrison. They own Refuse to Quit, the gym.
The new gym.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
Very proud of them. And then what I call my bonus blessing is our youngest son, Asher.
Yeah.
And he is 17, a junior, and he's our last.
So. Going into senior year next year.
Going into our senior year, I know it's hard to believe.
I was a bonus blessing too,
yes.
So we turned out pretty okay. So
I have never considered him an oops or a mistake.
Yeah.
He has always been my bonus blessing. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I am a teacher. I have been teaching. I have literally taught everything from preschool to high school, every grade in between, every subject pretty much. But the majority of my teaching was in 6th grade science, which I just love. I still love to this day. But now I'm teaching 8th grade ELA.
Got it.
And so that has been a challenge this year. And 8th graders are definitely can be challenging.
I'm sure in this day and age, they're probably, I remember myself in 8th grade and I don't think I would know how to handle 8th grade this year. Yes. I'm not ready for my kids to get up to that yet either.
Yeah,
so
it's, I was just talking with a friend of mine that I teach with, and there's so many different hats that we have to wear, and sometimes I'm just a mom. Sometimes I just need to be there to hug kids, and sometimes I have to be the disciplinarian, but I'm still the mom, so I have to do the I'm so disappointed in you speech, and but I love it. I love the interaction with the kids, and there's so many kids that need just some positive in their lives, and so
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be doing that. I don't know for how much longer. I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, you have. And teachers have, I have such a special place in my heart for teachers because I couldn't be one.
Yeah.
I could do 90 minutes on a Sunday morning and that's about it. And then I'm like, nope, no more. And even someone had asked me if I'd ever homeschool Eddie and Russ, and I was like, probably not. They just don't have, I just don't have the patience for that. So I have loved, we've been so blessed by our teachers, even with the bigs and stuff. So
that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. It's definitely a calling. It's not something that you go into and, expect to make a lot of money or expect to be famous or, on TV or anything. It's definitely, it has to be a calling. And I have known since I was a very little girl that I was going to be a teacher. So,
that's awesome.
Yep. That was my whole life.
Yeah.
Mommy, wife, teacher. Those are it.
That's
I've always known
Well,
those.
and now, but now you have a little bit more that you have going on or have gone through.
Yeah. So in 2017, I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, which is a form of breast cancer. And ironically, I found the lump myself in the shower. I tell this story, and I don't want to be too gross about it, but I breastfed all my babies. And so those of you that have breastfed babies, you know what happens to your body when you do that. And so I was bent over shaving my legs, and I had to rearrange some things. And I found a lump. And so, and I was shocked. I just thought, surely not. I mean, my gosh, I was young. And so I called my doctor right away, and he got me in. And in a very quick sequence of events, I had an ultrasound and a mammogram. And after the mammogram, the lady was gone for a while, and she came back in the room with a radiologist. And I know now that if a radiologist comes in the room after you have a test, it's probably not great news. So, and we were, my parents were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary that year, and we had planned this big family reunion that we were leaving for. And so the radiologist said, I think we need to do a biopsy. And I said, okay, well, I'll schedule it for next week. And I just, didn't think too much. I mean, I knew it was serious, but I didn't figure a couple days would matter.
Right.
And he just said, no, we need to do it right now. And instantly, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I haven't packed for vacation.
Isn't that funny how our insurers still we had this to-do list.
Right. Like, I'm a mom.
Yes.
I have to pack. And because I've had other people in my life that have had biopsies, I know that you can get really sore. And, I did have a friend who couldn't use her arm because of, the biopsy. And so that was in my mind. And so I just said, I haven't packed yet. I can't do this right.
Right.
And, and he just, I could tell by the look on his face that it was a little more serious than I was, taking it. And so they did the biopsy right then, that same day. And I left for vacation the next morning, and we went to Branson, and we had a wonderful family vacation, but I made the decision not to tell my parents.
I was going to ask you, did you tell anybody while you were down there?
Yeah. I did. I told my two brothers because, we see each other so infrequently throughout the year that I wanted to tell them in person. But I didn't tell my parents because, one, I knew there wasn't anything they could do about it.
Right.
And two, I didn't want to ruin this family vacation, the one time where we were all together. And so I just stayed quiet, and I did in fact get lots of bruises and a very, very sore arm. And so I just kind of walked around with my arms crossed for most of the weekend. And then the following Monday, we got the phone call that they wanted my husband and I both to come in. And, I pretty much knew. But because of my personality, I'm a planner, I'm a doer, I'm a list maker. And maybe that's because I'm a teacher, I don't know. But I took my notebook, and I was writing down everything he was saying. And at one point, I remember he looked at my husband and he said, does she really understand what's going on here? Do you think she fully understands? And we were in a very tiny room, not much bigger than this area. So it wasn't like he was trying to whisper. He just out loud said to my husband, do you think she understands? And my husband just said, yes, she absolutely understands what's going on. And he said to me, most women, when I'm giving them this diagnosis, they are crying hysterically. Some pass out, some throw up, some are on the floor crying, but you are very calm, and it's just not something I've seen before. And And the next thing I know, out of my mouth, it was totally a God thing, but I just said, I'm not afraid. Because I know that I am not in charge and you're not in charge, and I know the one who's going to heal me.
Right.
And and that was my very first time that I was able to use this disease for God's glory.
Right.
And that's kind of what started the whole story was him questioning whether or not I was even understanding anything.
What was going on? I always wonder like how I would react in that situation, and I'm kind of you know me, I'm kind of an emotional mess a lot of times, and so I'd probably be a puddle on the floor. But I was always wondering like what your initial reaction was, because you, in all the years that I've known you, there's not been a time that anything has been going on at church that you didn't have. I mean, we can get into this down the road when I would always say, Tonia, how are things going? And you would say, could always be worse. Could always be worse. And I'd be like, yes, yeah. I mean, you know, and so you've taught, even though I don't know the whole story, there's so much that you had taught me in the process. So, okay, so you get the diagnosis, and then what's the next step? So, like aggressive?
It was, it had already left, so it was invasive, which means that it had already spread from the milk ducts themselves. That already spread. But I remember on the way home from the doctor's office, I just said a silent prayer, and I said, God, I trust you, and I want you to use me. Use me however you can. I know this is going to be ugly, and it's going to be hard, and it's not going to be fun, but I'm like, use me, whatever, however that looks. And, you know, that phrase, that peace that passes all understanding, that's the feeling in the car on the way home from being diagnosed. And really, I really just have not been, I mean, there's been times, sure, that I've been scared in the moment of like what's going to happen during this procedure. But as far as like my future, I just have always had that peace. And I know that's God, because I want him to use me. So that kind of started the ball rolling with lots of phone calls and then doctor visits, and I had to go to Iowa City, and I had to do this special MRI that I call the Superwoman MRI, because you literally have to lay with your arms out, and you're laying on your stomach, and your chest are like down in these special cones. It was really cute. And a 12-year-old, I swear to goodness, the boy was like 12. It was the tech. And so, you know, here I am, and I'm like all spread out, but
that's great.
Yeah. So I made the decision that I wanted to have a double mastectomy. A lumpectomy was not an option for me because of where the tumor was. And I just decided and I don't feel like I'm a very vain person, but the thought of having one.
Yes.
And then one. No. So
like it's like stretching. You should do both sides.
Right. Like let's just make this at least kind of sort of
a little even.
Equal.
Yes,
and
there you go.
I knew that I had some family members that have had breast cancer before, and you know, I lost my great grandmother and a great aunt and some other women in my family, and so I just thought I don't want to have to go through this again.
Right.
And so I made the decision, and I'm really glad that I did. I can tell you that I would not do implants again if I had to do it all over again. You know, that's one of those things that I wished I would have been able to talk to someone beforehand. And I don't even know, honestly, if it would have changed my mind. Maybe it would have, but there's just like ongoing pain from like how they're sewn, and so if I had to do it over, I would say
that would be
probably
skip that.
But I had a phenomenal surgeon out in Iowa City. She did a great job, and they said I was, even though it had already spread to my lymph nodes, they knew that. They took some lymph nodes, and they said that I didn't need radiation, I didn't need chemotherapy.
Wow.
And I was thinking, thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
That's amazing. What I know now is I wasn't given all of the information that I needed. They offered me a drug called tamoxifen that it's got all kinds of ugly side effects, and like the percentages that they gave me was like a 3% chance of reoccurrence without the medicine and a 1% chance if I had taken the medicine. What they didn't tell me was that they were only looking at 5 years. So Iowa City, I guess, they only look 5 years out.
Oh.
I don't know why. I don't know if it's because it's a teaching hospital. And so I believed them because they're supposed to be the experts.
Right.
And I went about my day and, healed. I guess I could back up a little bit. I knew that I was going to miss the first 6 to 8 weeks of school.
Yeah.
Because my surgery was at the beginning of August. And I hadn't met my kids yet.
Oh.
And, 6th grade, I was teaching 6th grade. And that is such a hard transition, especially the school I was teaching at. They go from these small elementary schools to this huge middle school. And so I was concerned about my kids that I hadn't even met yet. And so I had a friend of mine, we met before my surgery, and we went to every desk in my room and we prayed over all my desks. And just for them to, just be okay without me. Not that they didn't know me yet, but...
you kind of it's like you are already adopting them before you even know them. Yes. True teacher. Yes, absolutely.
Because I'm a mom first about anything else, and I have always told my students that no matter what, I'm going to love you like you are my own kids. I will protect you. I will be hard on you. I will expect big things from you. And so that, I just felt like that was important for me to do that. And it gave me some peace that... So then when I did go back after I was recovered, then I felt like, even though I didn't know their faces, I felt like I knew them a little bit.
Yeah.
But so I just kind of went on with my life, and I tried to keep a sense of humor about the whole thing. I made a T-shirt that said, "Heck yes, they're fake. The real ones tried to kill me."
Oh, okay. That's great.
And I just thought, I have to have a sense of humor about this. And, I have ugly scars, and I have all these side effects from different medicines. And, but that T-shirt has opened up so many conversations. I was in Farm and Fleet one time, and there was an elderly man. And you know how sometimes you're always in the same aisle with the same people?
Yes.
And this man, he kept looking, and I had the shirt on, and I'm sure he was trying not to stare at my chest.
Is it right on there?
Yes, it's right. It's right across here. So of course, and then about the third aisle, he finally got enough courage, and he said, "Do you have breast cancer?" And I said, "I did. I don't anymore. This is before my reoccurrence." But he got tears in his eyes, and he said, "My wife was just diagnosed today, and she was waiting in the car." And he just started crying. It just broke my heart. And so just that one little T-shirt opened up this conversation that I would have never had the opportunity. And so I asked him a couple questions and asked him, and they had decided they were going to be going to Iowa City, and so I was able to encourage him, and then I asked if I could pray for him.
That's amazing.
And we were standing in the middle of an aisle in Farm and Fleet. I think it was the dog food aisle, actually. And we just held hands, and I just prayed for him. And I've
Yeah.
never seen him again. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But just those little opportunities that
I mean, you always hear that quote where God can turn your mess into your message.
Yes.
And you really were just a walking testimony to that, where you could always look and use it to be encouraging versus this victim.
Yeah.
You didn't have this victim mentality. Like all the times at the Crave Building at church, every single time. Could always be worse. I'm blessed. And you were just going through it.
Yeah.
And it almost, you had this sense of like, you had so much confidence, you knew that you weren't walking through it alone. So
Right.
you were just like, here's my best friend, my invisible best friend right next to me, and we're good.
Yeah.
And there's much more going on in the world. So
Yeah. I always knew that there's always so many other people that could have it.
yeah.
So there's just so many horrible diseases and so many ugly situations that people have to live through and endure. And but then I found another lump. And it was about 2 years
Okay.
after my surgery, and it was right along the incision. And I kept calling Iowa City and I kept telling them, hey, this is what I found. What do you think? And they were not acting like they were really concerned about it. And I left messages. And so finally, I went to see my regular gynecologist in Sterling, and he wanted me to have an ultrasound done. And this surgeon, who was supposed to be Dr. Tugwell, like he came very highly recommended by Dr. Tugwell, and he walked in the door and he said, Dr. Tugwell wants me to give you an ultrasound, but you can't have breast cancer again because you don't have any breast tissue left. And again, he was the expert.
Right,
So I immediately just like a weight was taken off because
Yeah.
I believed him. And he didn't take any permanent pictures or measurements, so there's nothing to compare to.
Yeah.
And he said it's probably a lipoma, it might get bigger. I wouldn't worry about it. So I didn't, because I thought he must know.
Right, they're the experts.
Right.
Yeah, so what do you do with that?
And, and so I, thank you, Jesus. Okay. And it did get bigger. And but he said it was going to get bigger, so I just thought, well, okay. But eventually, I just said something has to be.
Yes.
But I felt fine. I wasn't sick. I didn't have any symptoms. I don't think most people with breast cancer do. But so I finally called Iowa City again, and I just said, I am not getting off this phone until I have an appointment.
Yeah.
I have to see somebody.
Yes.
So they finally got me in and went through an ultrasound one more time. And again, the little tech girl left and she was gone for a long time. And she came back with a radiologist.
And you're like, I know this story. Yes, yes, I know how this goes.
Where this is going. And he, and the other thing is, I am a firm believer that good can come out of any situation. Any situation. Sometimes you have to look really, really hard for the good, but I firmly believe there is good in every situation. And he came in and he said, I think we need to do a biopsy. I think, this looks really suspicious. And so one of the good things that has come out of my diagnosis is I have become much more of an advocate for myself.
Yes.
I am much bolder than I used to be. I don't take no for an answer, or a dismissive, don't worry about it, it's probably nothing. So I've tried to encourage as many people as possible. If I run into people that are going through any kind of thing, is ask questions, and if it doesn't feel right, ask some more. And if the doctor doesn't like it that you're getting a second opinion, then you know that he's not the right doctor for you. So that's one of the good things that has come out of this. And so the radiologist said, we'll get it scheduled. And I said, I am not leaving this hospital until you do this today.
Yeah.
And it took him, I think it took him back a little bit because maybe most people aren't
Yeah, they're fine. I mean, they're probably like, okay.
but not anymore. I used to be like, okay, well, let me know. I'll wait for you to call. No,
Not anymore.
not anymore.
Okay,
I feel like life's too short.
Yeah.
I don't have
Absolutely.
time for that. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
So I said again, I am not leaving this hospital until somebody does a biopsy on this today. And I kind of gave him the backstory of like how many times I have called, and now this is like almost a year has passed since I first found the second. And the technician said, it's very superficial, doctor, and she does have an appointment with the surgeon. So I went upstairs and saw my surgeon, and she did the biopsy right there in the office. So I remember the very first biopsy I had, the radiologist in Sterling had told me that in the little jar that they put with the preservatives that they put the specimen in, that healthy tissue floats and cancerous tissues sink. And so that was playing in my mind, probably and at this point it was like 3 years since that initial. And so when the doctor held up, and she wasn't showing it to me, she was just holding it up to see for herself, and she said, yeah, I think we got some good samples here. They were all on the bottom of the cup. And so I knew without anybody telling me that this was cancer and that it has come back. But again, I said a little prayer like, okay, and one of the things that I tell people often is that God's not surprised.
Right.
He wasn't surprised that my cancer came back.
Right.
He has already walked ahead of me, and had that day too. He had already walked ahead of me. He already knew, kind of what was going to be in store for me after that. So, and that just gave me so much peace. That even if, and this is still true today, even if my cancer spreads everywhere and there is nothing else they can do, even then, God has already figured it out.
Yeah.
And so that took me down. Then we had to decide on on what kind of medicine and what kind of treatment. And thank God that He has put all of these doctors in the world and given them all of this knowledge, because there are so many new treatments out there. And so that was, I'm gonna get your water.
Yeah. Okay, so is it a different kind of cancer, or it just came back? Like,
it's the same kind of cancer. So they did not say this, but this is just my non-medical brain, that they didn't get all the cancer in the first
place. Okay.
Is what,
yes.
So that kind of led down the road of getting a new oncologist, and that oncologist, he did not have the best bedside manner, I guess we'll say. And at this point, we were kind of shocked that it had come back.
Yeah.
And, so that led to all kinds of bone scans, because then they start telling you, well, cancer, when it's breast cancer, it usually goes to your bones and to your brain and to your lungs. And so we have to do a bone scan to see if it's in any of your bones. And then we have to do a CT scan and all these different scans. And I was getting reports on my phone almost instantaneously in my patient portal. And so I was reading them, in my very non-medical brain.
But I mean, there's some things.
When it says whatever, clear, no sign of disease, no evidence, I can understand that. So the bone scan was great, and the MRI on my brain was great, and then it came to the CT scan, and it showed that the cancer had spread to my lungs, and it even had on my phone. It even had the pictures of what my lungs looked like on the CT, and this was before we had even seen the doctor. So I'm sitting in the cafeteria, and Iowa City is a very noisy, busy hospital. It's a teaching hospital. There are medical students and residents and all the different levels, and everything is rush. Everybody is in a hurry, and it's loud and it's crowded and it's completely overstimulating.
Yes, correct.
And I'm sure.
When we worked in Dubuque, I had a lot of my friends or coworkers, if something was like, they would always go to Iowa City, and so we visited a few, just through the Ronald McDonald House and things like that. And I remember thinking, like, this is insane.
Yes.
It was so big.
Yes, and there's hallways. I mean, it's so big that they have like golf carts that they take people from place to place inside the hospital, because it's so big. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but just for me, it was so overstimulating and loud, and the hallways. I remember the sounds of the doctor's shoes and people running, and that sound. It just was. It was a lot when I'm trying to process
what you just.
Okay, now it's in my lungs, and your lungs are supposed to look black on a CT scan or in an X-ray. Mine looked like dark sky filled with stars. There were just white everywhere, and some were big stars and some were little stars, but all the white, it was all cancer, and it was in both my lungs. My right one was worse than my left, but so just seeing that picture was such a shock that this has progressed. Sorry.
I was like, digress? No, that's not right.
Progressed. It's Friday.
It's Friday.
I've been teaching all year.
Yes.
So it just, the fact that it had progressed so quickly, and there was so much there. So that we went in and saw him, and I had already said, I just saw my reports, and it shows that it has gone to my lungs. And he just very flippantly said, well, you probably didn't read it correctly, because, and I haven't even looked at your scans yet, but it very rarely goes to your lungs. And I'm thinking, what? Okay, time out. First of all, why haven't you read my scans?
Right, why am I in this chair if you haven't looked at my stuff yet?
Second of all, what do you mean it rarely goes to your, like, I know enough that those are like the brain, bones, lungs.
Yes.
Like that.
Yes.
So then he had to excuse himself to leave.
Go.
And I was just like, what?
So, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, you went to the doctor, it was like a year. Did you have any anger at the doctor that, okay, because that's where I would be stuck. I
don't know. I think there probably a little bit was anger, for sure. Because I had been given all of this, not necessarily wrong information, just not all of the information.
Right.
They didn't give me enough information, is what I feel like. And knowing what I know now, I should have been given radiation.
Yeah. Yes.
The very first time.
Okay.
Because it had spread to my lymph nodes already.
That's why I was so shocked that they weren't doing that. Because I have a friend that was diagnosed.
Right, and that's like, that's
everybody. Didn't spread anywhere. And is going through radiation now.
I know.
And so when you said that you didn't have anything, I was like, huh.
I know. But again, I trusted him. I believed him because...
What else are you going to do? I mean,
he's an oncologist. I'm a 6th grade teacher. I think I'm going to believe what,
Yes.
And so now I don't believe everything doctors
Yeah,
tell me.
I probably.
I don't take everything that they say. Just now, usually it's I'm gonna go research that on my own, or I'm gonna go get another opinion. And but yeah, I was angry. My husband was very angry, and then that's the difference between our personalities. Is that but I was more like dumbfounded. Like what do you mean? Why didn't they give me this information? Why wasn't I treated the way, I don't know. So, and I told him, the second oncologist, I am very much a planner, a doer. I don't want things sugar coated. I don't want you to tell me all of the sweet fluffy stuff to try to make me feel better. I want to know the facts, and I want to know what my options are.
Right.
And he looked at me and he said, it has spread to your lungs. That means you are considered stage 4. There is no cure. We'll do the best we can. And
yeah,
I was like, oh, wait a minute. Okay. I didn't mean it to be.
I need a little sugar.
Maybe a little sugar. Maybe a little sugar sprinkled on there would have been better than just the.
Maybe a hug. Like something a little gentle.
Maybe a little icing.
Oh.
Just to kind of.
Bring that back down.
Sweet the blow a little bit.
I
Yeah.
don't know that.
Yeah, so that was, and that was a long car ride home from Iowa City. Just all of the treatments and the different options and the what nexts and I had to have a lung biopsy.
Okay.
And lung biopsies are done when you are wide awake. I did not know that and was not really prepared for that mentally.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm a pretty tough chick. Like,
yeah.
After my first surgery, the mastectomy, I had drain tubes for almost 4 weeks. There was scar tissue. They just yanked those puppies out.
Ooh.
And it was like throw up painful.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm a pretty tough chick, and I've given birth, so
that tops all
naturally 3 times to big boys, and so I feel like I've got some stuff. I've got some stuffins.
Yeah,
my grandma used to say she's got some stuffins, but that lung biopsy was pretty torturous, and I always say the drain tubes and the lung biopsy. Those were by far the 2 worst things. They put it in the wrong place, so then they had to go in again. And they didn't tell me that it's normal for you to start coughing up blood.
Oh gosh, so
I was doing that while I was so then I immediately started like panicking a little bit, like what?
Like what's going on?
What's going on here? And there's like, oh, it's no big deal. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So the phrase "it's no big deal" kind of hits a nerve with me.
Yeah,
now,
I bet.
Because I've heard it so
Noted.
many times. Yes. Please don't tell people it's no big deal.
No. Yeah, you want to say that,
especially if you've never gone through it.
Yes.
Don't tell people it's no big deal. Yeah. And I know that's probably like maybe they train nurses and doctors to say that to help ease people. That doesn't ease.
Yeah, no.
That just makes me mad.
Yeah, that would probably upset me greatly.
It's very upsetting. So, so then from the biopsy, then that was determined that it was in fact the same kind of cancer.
Okay.
So I don't have lung cancer. I have metastatic breast cancer.
Okay.
So, and once it's spread, it is considered stage 4, and there is no stage 5. Stage 5 for me is heaven. So, that's something that now people live with stage 4 for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And some people live with stage 4 for a long time, and then all of a sudden it comes back, and boom, they're gone in a short time. So, that part of this journey is the uncertainty that there is no crystal ball. There is no statistically speaking, I have already lived longer than I should have.
Okay.
And that's it's God. That is.
So you still have you done radiation or nothing?
No.
They don't do.
Mm-mm. Once it has, so I very quickly realized that second oncologist was not for me. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. He and I were not going to get along.
Yes.
And
how good the not soft.
Yes. And the second time I saw him, I asked him if he would do telehealth visits. That's, I was running out of sick days.
Yes.
And he started grilling me on, well, why are you out of sick days? And why don't you save sick days? And
I was like, you're not my mom. You're not my boss.
Yeah. I'm like, I had cancer.
Yeah.
So there's that. And anyway, he just looked at me and he said, this is a business. We're here to make money, and I don't do those kinds of telehealth visits.
I've been like, next.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah.
Yes.
Red flag.
Yes.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yes.
So I went home that night and I started researching other places.
Yes.
And that's when I found City of Hope.
Okay.
And I had heard about it. It used to be called Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
Okay.
And I had heard about it. I've heard of other people. I've seen commercials. I called them the next morning. I had appointments set up the next week. They have hotels there. The hotel was $25 a night. They gave us meal vouchers.
Amazing.
Such an amazing.
Where is this at?
This one is in Zion, Illinois.
Okay.
So Chicago, Zion, Wisconsin.
Yes.
So it's literally, it's right on Lake Michigan. It's right, Illinois State Beach is there. And remember I said Iowa City is very rushed and chaotic and loud, and it's crowded, and
yes,
City of Hope is the exact opposite.
Yes.
It's not a teaching hospital. So there's not, and I used to joke at Iowa City, you had to see like 4 or 5 different people before you saw the doctor. So it was like, hello, yes, I have breast cancer. Yes, you may examine me. Hello, yes, I have breast cancer. Yes, you may examine me. Hello, yes, are you old enough to be in this room? Yes, you may examine me. So, that was a little, and so at City of Hope, it's calm. They have classical music. It's, they play Christian music. I'm pretty sure everybody's there is a Christian. They're just, it's such a different environment. They remember your names. I go every 3 months and people recognize me.
That's nice.
And it's such a different experience. So my oncologist there, he has since left, but my very first time there, he looked over all my information. He had already looked it all over before I saw him. And he said, they did not give you all of the information. They looked at 5 years. We look at 15, 20, even next.
When you're talking about life, that would be hard for me to take.
Yeah, like I had an 8-year-old at home.
Yes.
So 5 years was not good enough for me.
Right.
That's not acceptable.
Right.
And if that's what God wants, then okay. But I didn't feel at all. I just had that peace that this was going to be a long term thing. But Dr. Ahn, he just said if they would have given you radiation, we would not be sitting here today. And that was a tough pill to swallow.
I bet.
That was tough to hear that, because then you play that shoulda, woulda, coulda, what if this, what if that.
I'm good at that in a bad way. You know what I mean? I have always, I should have done something different, or what if, and yes. Yeah, that would probably be the hardest for me.
Yeah, it was. And so that was tough. There were, but they were so encouraging. And so I started these, they're called immune therapy drugs. They also call them oral chemo pills. So I take oral chemo pills every single day, and I will the rest of my life. So I currently am in remission, which
Okay.
means there are still little stars in my lungs, as I like to call them, but not as many. There are
Okay.
almost all of them are gone.
All right.
But there are a few of the bigger ones, but they haven't changed in a year and a half. So because of that, and because of like my blood work and all the different numbers that they look for all intents purposes, I am in remission.
Nice. Okay.
So that's just a beautiful thing. I think for me, and again, I keep saying good comes out of every situation, and it's just allowed me to share my faith with people.
Yes.
Before my mastectomy, I had to have this. They had to inject radioactive material like all around in my breast the day before my surgery, and I had to lay on this table, and the little technician girl, I say little, they all look like they're 12 to me. I don't know all of them, but they're all students. So,
yes.
Yeah, she might have been 12. I don't know. She asked me what kind of music I wanted to listen to, and I said, well, I want to listen to Christian music if you have that. And she went, oh, okay, yeah, I can find some Christian music. And so she did, and so she started asking me questions. And I just told her, this is not something that God is surprised by, and He's going to see me through this. And I've been able to share that with so many people. And Iowa City more so, because there were so many people that it was very obvious to me that they did not have a relationship with Christ. And so I just took it as an opportunity
That's amazing.
to just share, not like get my Bible out and start beating them over the head with it, but just share that God's still good.
Well, and I think people hunger for hope.
Yeah.
And so when you can be a carrier of hope, even in the thing that you're going through, okay, so I have a confession. I didn't know all of that. Like, I didn't know that you still carried this. So when you would be like, well, with my diagnosis, and I'd be like, well, I'm sure I'll hear about it. So I was just being patient. And now, silly me, 3 years later, here we are. You know what I mean? Like, to think about where God is taking you through that. And then here you are, and still dealing with that. And still, every time I would see you, how's it going, Tonia? And you'd be like, God is good, and it could always be worse. And I'm grateful for what, that I'm still here, and the things that I'm going through. And and I remember there were some Sundays you didn't feel great. But you smiled.
Yeah.
And and I remember times where they would ask for prayer, but and this is the whole thing, the whole reason for this podcast, because the whole story never gets told.
Right.
You don't know.
Right. And I feel like, there's so many people that have been so good and have prayed. Oh my goodness, there's hundreds of people that I don't even know. Don't know their names, but I'm so grateful for them. But, people ask, just in general, how you doing?
Yeah.
Well, you don't have time to sit and tell them.
Do you want to know about my week? Here's where I've been poked and prodded, and my, my fear and my gratefulness and all these things. So we say,
it can always be worse.
Yeah.
And those the first really 6 months when I found out that it had come back and had spread to my lungs, the medicine was so hard. There were so many side effects, and just the joint pain. I couldn't hardly pick up pencils or an ink pen, and just there's so many of them, many side effects, and it all affects different people differently. And so when people ask, how are you doing, I feel like it's a loaded question, because like if you really want to know,
let's sit down.
And get yourself a cup of coffee, because it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
But when I go and I see people that are so much sicker than I am, it's really taught me just to look for the good and appreciate every little thing.
Yeah.
So I've had to switch medicines. There's some, I started out with one immune therapy drug that wreaked havoc on me, and it was just, it was just not, I just thought, there was a point, the side effects were they were so bad that I just thought, this is not living.
Right.
I'll just quit. I'll just quit taking the medicine, and I'll see what God does. But, God already knew that, and there's just another medicine.
Yes.
And that one wasn't great for me either, and so now I'm on a third medicine.
And so the City of Hope?
City of Hope,
in Zion, I remember that. So, and they work with you on all these medicines. Like
I go see them every 3 months.
Okay. And that's like the scans and stuff that you have that you always,
I do blood work. I was doing it every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Which is so fun when you only have one good vein in your entire body. One good vein. But it's still holding. So
so keep trying, guys.
That's keep trying. Every time I get blood, I'm like, it's right here. That's it. But they're still good. They're still, and I just feel like I have that message that I don't look sick. But I'm sick. And even though I'm in remission, I still have it. I still have cancer, and I will have cancer the rest of my life. And I don't think I did a really great job with my boys in that respect, because I just kept giving them that hope that I am not scared, which I'm not, and I didn't lie about that, but I didn't explain, and I finally have had to come to have that conversation with them that I am stage 4. There is no stage 5, and I don't get to go back to stage 3, 2, or 1. So, when I had to have that conversation with my youngest, with Asher, that changed. That changed, which made me sad.
Yeah.
As a mom, you don't.
Well, and when my dad he was sick when I was in high school, it was the first time that he had cancer. He had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So as soon as you said lymph nodes and they didn't do, I was like, what? Anyways, but I was 21 when it came back, and he did a natural thing to try and chemo about took him out the first time, and so, but it was never we didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about it. Well, at least I don't remember talking about it, but I was 20. I was doing my own thing, and I don't think they realized how sick he was, and so that was hard when it did happen. So that, I'm sure, even though the conversation was hard, I
wanted them to understand that even though, and I wanted, it was such a hard place, because as a mom, you want to protect your kids, and you don't want them to hurt. And Asher was only 8, he was like 11, 12 when it came back. I didn't want him to be scared, but so I just, I'm fine. There were lots of times when I wasn't fine, and there's still days when I don't feel great. But it can always be worse.
It can always be worse.
And sometimes I hope people don't think that I just say that kind of flippantly or to be cute or funny. I truly, it's from the heart. And when I go to City of Hope and I see people that have lost their hair or are carrying a thing for them to throw up in because they're so sick, or they're in a wheelchair and they have oxygen, I just think, my goodness, it truly can always be worse. And so I just, that's just kind of the message that I just want people to know, that this is something that it will probably be the thing that
takes you to Jesus, huh?
And sometimes that's harder to say it out loud
Yeah.
than other times. But, you know, it's still good, and he is good. And I just feel like I have used my experiences with other people that have kind of followed behind me and are in this breast cancer journey now, that I've been able to use my experiences. I have a friend that she was diagnosed, oh gosh, probably 3 or 4 years ago now. And we weren't super close. We were just kind of acquaintances, and we kind of lost touch. And so I saw a post on Facebook that she had been diagnosed, and she was planning on going out to Iowa City. And I immediately, woo, don't go there.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, I'm sure Iowa City is great for many, many things. I think they have a wonderful children's department, and they've done wonderful things, and they have a wonderful heart department. Breast cancer is not, in my experience, is not the place to go.
Yeah, but what a wonderful place up in Zion. I'm gonna get that right one of these days. But you know, just the whole, even just the name of it. Yeah. What
City
a great
of Hope. Yeah. And so, so I immediately called her and said, this is what happened to me. Please, please, please cancel your appointment. She was leaving like the next day, and she trusted me and canceled. And then she called, and now she goes to City of Hope also.
Aww.
Yeah. So it's just been, it has put people in my life, that it's brought friends back into my life. Just, Tracy is one of those people that, we're dear friends now because of this journey that we're both on. And so I just think we all have stuff. We all have, things and struggles, and, but I just, there's good in everything, and there's opportunities if you just look for them. And so I try to use my story and just try to show people that you can still live with a devastating disease, and knowing that this is something that is not curable, but you can still live with hope that there's still good in your life, and there's still, but you have to have that relationship with Christ.
Absolutely.
Because it comes from Him.
At Easter, during the message, the verse where the women are going to the tomb, and they're like, why are you looking for the living among the dead? And John and I have been talking about that over and over, and you are a living testimony to that too. You could have just been like, well, this is me, and woe is me. And I had no idea that this was still going on. And those little stars that you must carry with you radiate. I mean, you were just like, you glow. You can't be in your presence without you. I mean, even from rocking my babies to my kids wanting to get you ducks and us visiting your classroom, you just have this like radiance that pours out of you, and that's just hope and love. And so through all of this, you still, it's just like a spiritual gift that you have that He's just using this. So I am honored. And
thank you.
That you would I'm sorry that I didn't know that. And that's like the whole thing that started this whole thing. Like, I could look around and say, okay, well, I know that person and I know that person, but I have no idea
their story,
their battles. Yeah.
I heard like very clearly from God one time that very clearly He said, you need to tell people to be kind, because you never know what they're going through. And that to me, I have two expectations in my classroom, and it is work hard and be nice. That's it. Everything else falls under those two things. But God very clearly said to me, tell people to be kind.
Yeah.
Because you never know.
I would never know, meeting you on the street, that this was what you had gone through or going through, or
Right.
what you carry, or what, that's your story. I would have no idea. So.
And I talk about it. Like I want people to know, not that I don't feel sorry for myself, and I don't want people to feel sorry for me, but I want to be able to tell people and give them, give them some hope that even if they aren't diagnosed with breast cancer, whatever their situation is, that you can still live and do hard things and still have joy.
Absolutely.
And that's, it's a choice, but I choose to live, and I choose joy.
I love it. Do you have one verse that you are like, is there like your verse? This is what I found, like this is what I stake my what's it called? Stake my, whatever it is. Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't
Stake something. Stake it.
I'll look it up and
Stake
fix it.
Claim it.
Yes, claim it. Yes. As like your promise is what I was trying to get at.
I think the one that says, I have plans for you, plans to prosper you and not to hurt you or destroy you. I think that's that, because I just know that I know that God was not surprised by any of this.
Yeah.
And he already had this planned, and he already knew that he was going to use me. And so I'm just thankful that I was able to hear and feel that that's what he wants.
Yes.
He wants me to use my story, and I've used it with my kids in my classroom. And of course I don't get into all the nitty gritty and the personal, all that stuff that junior high kids don't need to know about, and certainly not my students.
Right.
There is a line.
Right.
But I want them to know that, I went through this stuff, and I'm still going through it. So if there's something that you go through, you can get through it.
Yeah.
You can, and I think some kids, it's resonated with some of my kids already.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And people around me. So that's
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's my purpose.
Anything else?
I just
That was
thank you
amazing.
for letting me come
Beautiful.
on. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I'm so grateful for you. And I'm so grateful that you said yes, because I was like, okay, Lord, if she says no, then I'm not doing this. And so.
Oh, I'm so glad you did, because you are gifted.
Aw, thank you.
You are.
Yeah.
This is your gift.
This
for
has
sure.
definitely been a dream of mine for a long time. So thanks for making my dream come true today. So, friends, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you. Please pray for my friend Tonia.
Always. Yes.
Yeah, and if you are interested or need information about City of
Hope.
we can get that for you too. So
Yes.
just remember, your story matters, and it's always your story, but it's for His glory.
That's right.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.